Hello friends, in this video we are going to solve more problems based on superposition theorem. Let us start with this question. A network that is containing two sources, that is V1 and V2, with few resistances. One of that is designated as R. Okay, so for what information do I have is we are having a circuit with two independent voltage sources called as V1, V2 along with few resistances. One of that resistance is designated as R. So what is next? The power dissipated in R, okay, due to V1 and V2 is P1 and P2 respectively whenever they are acting alone. Okay, it means when V1 is acting, V2 is neutralized and the power is measured, or the power dissipated in R is measured, which comes out to be P1, and later on for V2 when it is measured it comes out to be P2, like that. What is the effective power when V1 and V2 are acting simultaneously? Now let me tell you, if you look at the options, option A says it is P1 plus minus P2. Most of the students will immediately go for option A because they strongly believe in superposition theorem. But let me tell you that superposition theorem is not always applicable. It fails sometimes, especially when it comes to something called as a non-linearity. If you have studied superposition theorem, very beginning I said that it is applicable only for linear systems. For non-linear systems, superposition theorem is not applicable. So from where this non-linearity has come, let me explain you. Okay. So when it comes for voltage or current, let me tell you. So whenever it comes for V1 and V2, let me tell you, V is given as I into R. And I can consider this equation as a linear equation. Okay. Because if I believe that R is constant, it resembles to Y equal to what? Mx. Isn't it? So it's a linear equation. Suppose if I'm talking about I can say that I is equal to 1 by R into V. Again 1 by R is constant. Again it resembles to what? Y equal to mx equation. So let me tell you, this is basically equation which belongs to a linear category, and that's the reason why superposition theorem is applicable whenever you are calculating voltages or current. When it comes to power, let me tell you guys, equation of power is, it is I square R. The moment this square comes in picture, let me tell you, this is what we called as a completely non-linear equation. This is a non-linear equation, right? Whether you write your power in terms of current or in terms of voltage, it gives you non-linear equation only with respect to R. For example, you can write power as V square by R. Still, as you can see, the exponential term has come and again it leads to a non-linear equation. And that is the only reason why this superposition theorem is not at all applicable for power calculations. Okay, so you cannot blindly say option A is valid, whether when V1 is giving you, let's say, power as P1 and V2 is providing power as P2, and V1, V2 when they are acting simultaneously, it does not mean the total power is P1 plus P2 or P1 plus minus P2. So option A may not be correct. Or let me tell you, option A is not correct only. Okay. Why? Because again, it leads to something called as a non-linear equation. You may not believe it until and unless I really prove it. Okay. So I'm going to prove. Okay. Let me begin this way. That whenever V1 is acting alone, let us assume that it gives you response as I1. Okay. So let me believe that I1 is a response, is what you get. With this, now you calculate power P1, which is simply I1 square times R. Okay, let me name this as equation number 1 or scenario number 1. I hope this scenario is quite clear to you. Let us assume that out of V1, V2, V1 is acting alone, because of which you are getting I1 current as a response, because of which you are getting power P1 as I1 square R. Okay, so that is what I'm considering as equation number 1. Let me assume that now V1 is neutralized and V2 is activated. So V2 is acting alone now, because of which now you get I2 as a response. And now I'm free to calculate power P2, which is again dissipated power to R, which is now given as I2 square times R. Let me name this equation as 2. Obviously, when I say that V1 and V2 are acting simultaneously, okay, so V1, V2 When it comes together, okay, I'm sure you will believe me that the total response is I1 plus I2 in that case. So obviously this time I1 plus I2 will be the response. And this is not said by me. It is proved by superposition theorem. We have already seen that, isn't it? And that's the reason why now I can say that the power effective or effective power is equal to obviously the total current square into R. So I can say that it is I1 plus I2. That is nothing but the total current whole square multiplied by R. Okay, let me call this one as equation number 3. Do you think that this is equal to P1 plus P2? Okay, let's have a check. What is the value of P1? Check it out. It is I1 square times R plus what is the value of P2? Okay, it is I2 square R. What is the common between them? R. It is I1 square plus I2 square. Its whole multiplied by R. Okay, next, if it is so, do you think that P effective is really equal to P1 plus P2? Please check it out. Please check it out yourself and take the decision. Just look at this. Just look at this. P effective is actually I1 plus I2 whole square multiplied by R. And P1 plus P2 is something else. It clearly means that they are definitely not equal. They are definitely not equal. So it proves that superposition theorem does not work for non-linear systems or non-linear equations. Since power is basically gives you a non-linear equation, it introduces a square term. Okay, so because of that exponential thing, it becomes a non-linear equation, and superposition theorem works only for linear systems, linear equations. I hope things are clear. Okay, but that's not our answer. We have only understood and I have only proved that, and I'm sure you are agree with that, superposition theorem is not applicable for power. But then what is the effective power? Because we are interested to calculate effective power, right? Okay, so for that what I'll do is I'll just follow the other approach. Okay, I'll just follow the other approach so as to get the correct option out of it. Okay, so let me assume that when V1 is acting alone, I can say that the power is P1, which is equal to I1 square times R, isn't it? I'm sure you are agree with that because I'm repeating the same equation again. What I'm trying to get is actually the value of I1. Okay, so what is the value of I1? So just by rearranging the term, you will understand that it is actually under root of P1 by R. Okay, it is under root of P1 by R. This is what I'm getting the value of I1 here. Okay, fair enough. So let me assume that now V2 is acting alone, because of which the dissipated power is P2, which is given as I2 square R. This gives me the value of I2 in terms of power, which is under root of P2 by R. Okay, that's great. So when I say that V1 and V2 are acting simultaneously, okay, in that case what is going to happen, guys? Okay, so I'm sure you know that the effective power, I can say the effective power is total current addition square multiplied by R. Okay, so I can say that it is I1 plus I2 whole square multiplied by R. But then as you are aware that I1 and I2 will get really added when they are in the same direction. Let us assume that sometimes if I1 and I2 appears to be in different direction, it might happen that the subtraction may take place. So we really don't know whether the effective current is the addition of currents or subtraction of currents. So in general, let me put this way: I1 plus minus I2 whole square multiplied by R. Now let me put their values. P effective is, okay, what is I1 value? It is under root of P1 by R plus minus under root of P2 by R, the whole square multiplied by R. Okay, and here what I can do is actually this R gets cancelled with this outermost R, and what is remaining, guys? P effective. Okay, it is simply under root of P1 plus minus under root of P2 and whole square. This is what the P effective is. So P effective is not P1 plus minus P2, guys. It is under root of P1 plus minus under root of P2 whole square. Okay, so let me see. Let me go back to the question. Okay, so here we go. Option C is the correct option out of all. So I'm sure you have understood this question, and with this now I'm moving to the next problem. Okay, the next problem is in fact I can say the application of superposition theorem in analog electronics. So this is the circuit, which is a op-amp based circuit. So even though from the problem it appears to be the problem from analog circuit, I'm going to apply superposition theorem here. And how I'm going to apply that? Because I know the fact that there are two separate inputs, let me tell you. One is what we called as an inverting input. The other one is called as a non-inverting input. Can't you see that both of them are supplied with a common source voltage, which is 1 volt? Okay. So what I can do is, to apply superposition theorem, I can assume only one terminal at a time, okay, while other terminal is grounded, and accordingly I can calculate my respective output voltage, and at the end, in order to get the effective output voltage, I'll take the summation of the responses, okay, responses which are occurred due to individual voltages applied at inverting and non-inverting terminal. If you do not understood what I said, no worries, okay. As you can see, once again I'm explaining you, 1 volt is commonly applied to inverting as well as non-inverting terminal. So to apply superposition theorem, I'm going to assume only one terminal at a time, okay. Let me go to the next slide, you will understand that. Okay, so what I have done is I have connected my 1 volt supply to only inverting terminal, while I assume that non-inverting terminal is grounded now. I hope now things are very much clear to you. Okay, in that case, let me assume my output voltage to be V01. Okay, so this V01 indicates that output voltage only due to inverting terminal is supplied, where non-inverting terminal is completely grounded. Okay, let me name these resistors as, this is R2, let me assume this is R1, let me assume this is R3, let me assume this is R4. Okay, so we know very well, okay, in case of inverting configuration, okay, output voltage V01 is given as, it is minus R2 upon R1 multiplied by whatever V in applied, and let me tell you, V in voltage has to be taken this voltage, okay, which is in this case as 1 volt. So this is equal to minus R2, which is minus 2k, divided by minus R1, which is 1k, multiplied by 1 volt. So this k gets cancelled. What remains? V01. So V01 is simply minus 2 volt. I'm sure now you have understood how did I calculate V01. On similar grounds, I'm called to calculate V02 as well. Okay, so in case number 2, what I have done, only non-inverting terminal is supplied this time, guys. Okay, and of course inverting terminal is connected to ground. Let me assume this voltage as V plus. Okay, why so? Because let me tell you, this is considered as V02 now, where V02 is nothing but the output voltage when non-inverting terminal is supplied. So let me tell you once again, this is R2. Let me assume this one as R1. Let me say this is R3, let me say this is R4, and V02 is given as, it is 1 plus R2 by R1 multiplied by V plus. Please understand, I'm not saying V in, okay, I say that V plus because of the fact that at non-inverting terminal, the voltage applied is not 1 volt, guys, it is the voltage which is applied across R4, okay, see carefully, at non-inverting terminal, the real voltage applied is not V in, it is the voltage which is nothing but V plus. I hope you understood that. Okay, so here my aim is first of all to calculate V plus. And how do I calculate V plus? It is very simple. R3 and R4 are connected in series. So there are some people who will take the objection here. No sir, R3 and R4 are not connected in series because there is a connection over here. Let me tell you, in op-amp we believe that the internal resistance is infinity. So, this is actually considered as open circuit. Okay, if this is considered as open circuit, so when I say this is open circuit, guys, R3 and R4 are connected in series. And if they are connected in series, I can apply a voltage division rule. So the total voltage is 1 volt. Okay, and it is getting divided into R3 and R4. And I'm interested to calculate V plus. So it is simply total voltage multiplied by the value of R4, which is 1k, divided by R3 plus R4, which is 2k. Again, here k gets cancelled. What remains? V plus as 0.5 volt. Now let me calculate my V02. So V02 is equal to 1 plus R2 upon R1. Value of R2 is 2k, divided by value of R1 is 1k. Here again k gets cancelled, multiplied by V plus, which is nothing but 1 by 2 itself. Okay, so it becomes how much? It is 3 by 2. So V02, it's simply 3 by 2. which is nothing but, I can say, 1.5 volt. But we have to apply a superposition theorem. So by SPT, that is by superposition theorem, I can say that total voltage V0 is V01 plus V02. Okay, so what was V01? Let us go back and check. Okay, so V01 was -2 and V02 is plus 1.5. So it comes out to be minus 0.5 volt. So let me go back to the question and let me see which is the correct option. Minus 0.5 volt. So it indicates option C is the correct option. I'm sure you have understood this. Similarly, we are going to solve one more problem, and that is going to end our session. I would rather request that you should actually pause the video, try to solve this problem yourself, and I'm sure you will be able to solve. And in case if you succeed, this is going to boost your confidence. Okay, so again, you have to consider only one voltage at a time. Okay, so I'm going to consider 2 volt, and let me just deactivate 3 volt. So that becomes my case number 1, as clearly indicated here. 2 volt is applied, and this is what I'm supposed to ground now. Okay, let me assume this is R2, let me assume this is R1. V01, let me call this one as V01. V01 is simply minus R2 upon R1 multiplied by total voltage applied as input voltage V in. So the value of R2 is 5K, so it is minus 5K divided by 1K multiplied by V in, which is 2 volt. So KK gets cancelled, V01 becomes minus 10 volt. Let us go next and let us go for case number 2. So let me call this one as case number 1. So case number 1 means inverting terminal is supplied, non-inverting terminal is grounded. This time in case number 2, non-inverting terminal is supplied and inverting terminal is connected to ground. Not forget, still this is R2, R1. This is, let's say, R3, R4. Okay, and I'm sure you remember this is what we called as V02, but V02 is equal to, it is simply 1 plus RF by R1, or let us not call this one as RF R1 because we have named them as R2 and R1, multiplied by V plus. What is V plus? Okay, once again, V plus is this voltage. When it comes to non-inverting terminal, guys, please never ever forget that V plus is the voltage across R4, and voltage across R4 needs to be calculated by using voltage division rule. So let me continue. V02 is equal to 1 plus RF by R1 multiplied by V plus is nothing but total voltage, which is 3 volt, multiplied by R4 upon R3 plus R4. This is how we are supposed to calculate this. Okay, let me substitute the values. Finally, V02 is equal to 1 plus, what is the value of RF? Come on, it is 5K divided by 1K. This is multiplied with 3 multiplied by, what is the value of R4? It is 8K divided by R3 plus R4. So it is 9K. So here KK gets cancelled. KK gets cancelled here. 1 plus 5 becomes 6. 6 3s are 18 multiplied by 8 by 9. Okay, so it comes out to be 9 2s are 18, and this is 16 volt. Okay, so I'm sure you have understood this. So finally what I have to calculate is V effective. So V0 is actually V01 plus V02. So let me go back and check what is V01, V02. So V01 is minus 10 and V02 is 16. So it is minus 10 plus 16. So V0 comes out to be how much? It is 6 volt. So with this, now we have finished with this topic, that is superposition theorem. So we have solved so many problems based on the same. I'm sure you have understood this. Thank you.